She and Doe were paranoid and constantly on the move. And the FBI said there's really not much we could do about this group.
Doe said we're going to proceed doing the castration. Who's going to go first?
Do exactly as I say, and you will not know death.
By killing themselves, they ensured their immortality.
They signed out. Hasta la vista, baby.
People say, who do you think you are? Is this a cult if I ever heard one? Yes, it is. It's a cult. I mean, it's the cult of cults. We'll see you in our next session.
Heaven's Gate was a UFO cult, and it had a really tragic end. Marshall Applewhite, known as Doe, and Bonnie Nettles, known as T, met in Texas and they grew close. They then formed Heaven's Gate in the early 1970s. So this cult lived in seclusion and eventually attracted as many as 1,000 followers. It's a lot of people. Doe and T, they preached that they were Christ-like extraterrestrials who had taken human form, and they told their members that a spaceship would take them to a higher level of existence. Yeah. So they also spoke about science fiction just as much as they did biblical prophecy. But in the end, all that's left were dead bodies and a lot of questions.
The world has become so corrupt.
So corrupt, so it really showed the dependency on him.
As long as I exist, I have free will.
And I am doing this of my own free will.
My own free will.
I say no, they didn't have any free will. There were 38 murders and 1 suicide. If he wanted to kill himself, fine. Go ahead. Marshall Applewhite, you go first. But no, he made sure they all died.
Hello and welcome back to Crime, Mystery and Mayhem with Kate. If this is your first visit to my channel, hello, welcome. It's great to have you here. Here on my channel I talk about true crime stories. I find them interesting. I'm quite intrigued about why people do the horrific things that they do. The human mind, it's mental. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, please and thank you, because it would help me in my attempts to grow my channel. I'm still a reasonably new YouTuber, so with all your guys' support, I know I can get bigger, right? Yeah, cool. Anyway, all right, so today I am going to be talking about the Heaven's Gate cult. But first, there is a warning. I will be talking about suicide and religion. I most likely will make a few like snarky remarks or a couple of jokes as I go, because this story bothers me a lot. I know that sounds terrible, but please don't take it as me, you know, taking little snippets at the victims, because it's not. It's more about how I feel about the cult leader, not the members. So it's me having a go about the cult leader, not the members. I feel really sad for them. So yeah, that's the warning. Here we go. Let's jump into today's story. Marshall Applewhite Jr. was born in Texas on May the 17th, 1931. His parents were Marshall Applewhite Sr., who was a Presbyterian minister, and Louise Applewhite, and he had 3 siblings. So Marshall was really religious, and he grew up to be super religious, and he came from a good family. He went to Corpus Christi High School and then Austin College. He earned a bachelor's degree in philosophy in 1952, and then he enrolled at Union Presbyterian Seminary to study theology. He wanted to be a minister. So then he got married to a lady called Ann Pierce, and they later had 2 children, and their kids' names were Mark and Lane. That's the last time you hear about the kids, and the wife really. So early in his seminary studies, Marshall decided to leave the school to pursue a career in music, so a little bit different, and he became the music director of a Presbyterian church in North Carolina. Then, in 1954, he was drafted by the United States Army, and he served in Austria and New Mexico. So he was a member of the Army Signal Corps. He was in the military for 2 years, and then he enrolled at the University of Colorado, where he earned a master's degree in music, and he focused on musical theatre. So he really loved music. Then he decided that he wanted to move to New York. He wanted to pursue a singing career, but that didn't really take off for him. So he moved to Alabama, and he got a job working at the University of Alabama as a lecturer. But he got fired because it turned out that he was having a sexual relationship with one of his male students. It turned out that he was actually gay. Then in 1965, his wife left him because she found out that he had this relationship with one of his students. And then 3 years later, they ended up finalizing their divorce. So Marshall came out to his parents at around this time, and it was not taken very well. I guess because it was a different time. It was different back then. Some people just couldn't accept the gay community, which is quite sad. But yeah, so his dad ended up rejecting him. Yeah, it's sad. Like, he got the courage to tell his parents that, you know, he's gay, and that's how it happened. But yeah, it's super sad. But also, I'm assuming because his dad was a minister, he would have had that strong belief that, you know, God saw it as a sin to be gay or something. I'm just guessing. I'm not religious at all, and I've never actually read the Bible, so I don't know how it works. It's just things that I've heard. I'm sure things are different now, right? Are you guys religious? Is anyone here religious watching me do this video? Anyone? I have a question. Is homosexuality more accepted in religious groups now? I'd love to know. I'm curious. Okay, so I've never understood why gay people get so much grief for being gay. Like, it's not a choice. They don't just wake up one day and go, you know, I'm gay. It's just how they are. But anyway, enough of that one. Okay, so in 1965, Marshall moved to Houston to serve as chair of the music department at the University of St. Thomas. And his students really liked him. They thought he was great. They said that he was a really passionate teacher. He loved what he did. And also they said that he was a really stylish dresser. Not sure how that, you know, affects their studies, but yeah, they said they liked him. They thought he was great. He also became a singer in the town, but he was, you know, only famous in his local area. But everyone knew him for, you know, his singing and stuff, but in the area. He was also openly gay for a while he was in Houston, even though he was actually pursuing a relationship with a woman, but she wasn't really interested, and yeah. So I don't know why maybe he's bi, who knows. And in 1970, he actually resigned from his job at the university because he was going through a really bad time. He was suffering from depression really badly. There's also a rumor that he went into a depression because he was having another relationship with a male student, and apparently the student dumped him, but that's just a rumor. I don't know if it's true. So yeah, I don't know. In 1971, he moved to New Mexico just briefly, and then back to Texas. He wasn't in New Mexico for long at all, like less than a year, because at around that time his dad passed away, and it affected him really, really badly. So around this time, he's just having a hard time. We all go through it, right? We have those patches where it's been like, it's just crap and everything seems to be happening. I think he also just really wanted his dad's approval, but he never got it, so maybe that played on his mind a bit. That wouldn't have helped. Then in 1972, he met a woman called Bonnie Nettles. She was 44 years old, and she was married, and she's also a nurse. So the circumstances of how they actually met are unclear, but according to Marshall's diary, they had met in a hospital, and she was working in this hospital, and he was there visiting a sick friend. It has also been rumored that it was a psychiatric hospital and he was the patient, but we don't know for sure. It's possible because he was going through that hard time and stuff, but I don't know. So Marshall felt a deep connection to Bonnie, and he said that he felt like he had known her for a really long time. He decided that this was probably because he met her in a past life. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys believe in past lives? Let me know. So Bonnie was a bit of an interesting character, and she told Marshall that their meeting had been foretold to her by ETs. So I struggled to say extraterrestrial, so I'm just going to say ETs. There we go. It makes it easier. Extraterrestrials. ET. Yeah. Aliens. So she also persuaded him that he had a divine assignment, and the two of them would study together. They would study all different types of religions. They were getting really into it. They would read about the life of Saint Francis of Assisi and read works by Richard Badge. They also kept a King James Bible, studied passages from the New Testament, and even read science fiction. So a bit of everything. They added science fiction into it. Don't science and religion usually like not go together? But anyway, then they decided that they had been chosen to fulfill biblical prophecies, and that they had been given higher level minds than anyone else. I feel like they were maybe a bit crazy, but you know, that's just my opinion. Yeah. So they even wrote a pamphlet that basically said Jesus was reincarnated as a Texan. They were basically saying Marshall was Jesus reincarnated, and they concluded that they were the two witnesses described in the book of Revelation, and occasionally visited churches or other spiritual groups to spread the word of who they were. So they were quite different to everybody else. They would tell people that they were called the Two or the UFO Two, and they believed that they would be killed and then resurrected in front of people. Then they were going to be transported onto a spaceship. Okay, so I'm trying really hard not to speak my mind on all of this, but I'm sure like anyone who's watched my videos, my YouTube videos, probably know what I'm thinking. Basically, these people are batshit crazy. That's just what I think. I'm black and white. I see things black and white. I can't help it. I'm sorry. So they called this whole kill themselves, then come back and go on a spaceship thing the demonstration. Honestly, like, where do they come up with this? Like, okay, so loads of people that they were telling just thought it was dribble, and they thought it was stupid and not true. But of course, there were those few that were intrigued, and they started to believe, and they ended up getting their first follower. So they got their first follower in May of 1974. So this person was a woman called Sharon Morgan, and she actually abandoned her kids so that she could go off and join Marshall and Bonnie in this cult. But luckily, she saw sense, and a month later she decided to leave, and she went back to her children. Good choice. So it turned out that Marshall had stolen a rental car like a few months before, and they also excuse me, they also took that woman's credit card, and they used it. Yeah, so they were arrested for credit card fraud, and also Marshall got 6 months in prison for stealing a car. But the charges against them for the credit card fraud were later dropped because that lady Sharon, she didn't want to pursue charges. Not sure why, but she didn't want to. Then in 1975, Marshall got out of prison and he went and met up with Bonnie again, and they continued where they left off. This is when they decided that they wanted to contact extraterrestrials. I see the word extraterrestrial and it's just like ETs. And so they wanted to, look for like-minded followers. They would post ads in the papers, and they put up flyers to attract people. So these ads were basically them telling people about their beliefs, and if people were interested, there was a date and a time that they could go to a meeting, be told all about this. So at these meetings, they would sell their story about how they were representing beings from another planet and that they needed participants for an experiment. Then they would tell these people that if they agreed to be a part of this experiment, then they would be brought to a higher evolutionary level. Oh my god, my words today. And people, they were actually buying into this. I'm not even going to start filming again. I'm just going to keep going. If I stuff up my words, I'm sorry. I only got 2.5 hours sleep last night. My son's sick at the moment. And yeah, 2.5 hours sleep and I'm filming. So there we go. So in April of 1975, Bonnie and Marshall went to a meeting with a metaphysical group. There were about 80 people there, and they told the same story that they'd been telling everybody else. It was said that they presented themselves as good leaders with an important spiritual message, and they walked away with around 25 new followers. They must have been pretty good salespeople, right? Yeah. So later in September of 1975, Marshall and Bonnie preached at a motel hall in Waldport, Oregon, and they got another 20 people to join their cult. So when I was reading it, people just kept on calling it a group. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's a cult. So actually later that year, the CBS News reported that a bunch of people were just disappearing, and yeah, they kind of just disappeared. No one knew where they were, but they were with Marshall and Bonnie, who had arranged for these people to basically go underground, like off the grid. So their whole group cult was basically in hiding, and their friends and families, they had no idea where they had gone. Marshall and Bonnie, they were leading about 100 people across the USA, and they would sleep in tents, sleeping bags, and they were big on the streets. They needed to eat, right? Yep. They just kept on moving. So they're moving across the country, and they managed to evade detection from police and media. It's a big group, like 100 people. How do you not notice such a large group moving together across the country? I don't know. Also, where the heck were they taking these people? Also, Marshall and Bonnie went by a bunch of different aliases over the years. So just a couple of them were Bo and Peep. That made me giggle when I read it. And Doe and T. Okay, so yeah. The group also had several names prior to the adoption of the name Heaven's Gate. They kept on changing their name a lot. I think they were just trying to figure out like who they were. They would reinvent and rename this cult several times and had a variety of recruitment methods. So Marshall thought that he was directly related to Jesus, and he told his followers and anyone who would listen that he was the evolutionary kingdom level above human. Yep. So he believed that he was Jesus' successor and the present representative of Christ on earth. I'm sorry, 2.5 hours sleep, guys. I'm just gonna keep filming. It's happening. Anyway, they told their followers from the get-go that Marshall's bodily vehicle, as they put it, was inhabited by the same alien spirit which belonged to Jesus. And Bonnie, she was presented as God the Father. Okay. I'm still struggling to understand how people believed this, but okay. It sounds so far-fetched, right? What do you guys think? What are your opinions? Do you think I'm just being mean? Or I have a point, right? I think I have a point. Do you think that their followers truly believed all of this? They must have, right? I guess I'm struggling just to understand this whole thing. Because like I said, I'm very black and white in the way that I think. It's hard. Yeah. Anyway, they used all sorts of methods to recruit new followers while they were traveling around America. They proclaimed the gospel of higher level metamorphosis, the deceit of humans by false god spirits, envelopment, with sunlight for mediative healing and the divinity of the UFO too. Okay, that was a mouthful. Then in April of 1976, they stopped recruiting and they became reclusive. So they put a bunch of behavioral guidelines in place that everyone had to follow. And a couple of these guidelines, aka rules, they weren't guidelines, they were just straight up rules, were that no one was allowed to have sex or do anything sexual, and they weren't allowed to use any sort of drugs. See, when I read that, I'm like, but it was the 70s. I was born in the 80s, I wasn't there, but from what I've heard, pictures and stuff, it was the 70s. You know, people loved to smoke the old wacky backy in the 70s. Also sex. Being told you can't have sex, that would be pretty shit, right? Sex is great, from what I remember anyway. It's been a while. Anyway, told you 2.5 hours sleep. So this is when Marshall and Bonnie solidified their temporal and religious authority over their group. So basically, it's transformed from being pretty chill, like, you know, a chill social group, to a centralized religious movement. So they went from being like, yeah, cool, chill, to, nah, I'm in charge now. I wonder if people realized in that moment that, you know, shit was getting serious. Maybe it's time to leave. Like, people did leave this cult at times, so maybe. So most of the followers were said to be long-time truth seekers or spiritual hippies who just wanted to find themselves. They were looking at finding themselves through spiritual means. These people mostly all had different spiritual beliefs, and through this particular cult, they were combining all of their faiths, and they were basically creating a new one. They were learning, you know, all these different things. They thought it was just a great spiritual experience. They didn't realize at the time, in the early stages, that they were basically sheep being taken to slaughter. However, not all of them were hippies. They were not all hippies recruited from alternative religious backgrounds. There was one guy called John Craig. He was a respected Republican and ranch owner who came close to winning a 1970 Colorado House of Representatives race. And he joined the group in 1975. Like, that particular guy confused the crap out of me. When I read about it, I was like, huh? Okay. He didn't seem like the type that would be suckered in or so easily led. I mean, he was like a leader type. So what happened? They must have been really good salespeople. I'm still struggling to understand how these people believed that a UFO would come along, take them, and they would become a higher existence. I don't get it. Also, Marshall ran his cult like a military camp. They were like freaking wardens. Members had to sign out to get their driver's licenses and car keys before they could leave the compound. So for a while, Marshall and Bonnie would impose something known as tomb time. This was basically when members couldn't speak. Yeah, so they couldn't talk to each other, they couldn't say anything. And this could go on for days on end. It was like, all right, quiet now, and then you can't say anything until they tell you you can. Occasionally, they would even, you know, smack their members on the head in an effort to stop them from even thinking. So they wanted complete silence, even in their minds. How do you even do that? My brain is always going, like my head is always talking to me. Even at 2 o'clock this morning, when I was trying to go to sleep, and I just could not sleep because my son is coughing all night at the moment. He is sick, and it's so sad. Anyway, Bonnie was like a prison warden. She was determined to impose order. She insisted that daily routines be spelled out to the minute. Above all, the members were assigned partners. They had to do everything with their partner. There was no me time. What's me time? That did not exist in this cult. They had a partner with them when they would eat, when they would sleep, when they would work. I wonder if they had a partner with them when they went for a crap. Probably. So yeah. And also, they made sure to set people up with a partner that they would be least likely to be attracted to, so that no romantic relationships could develop. Yeah. So one day they called a meeting, which apparently some people didn't attend. I don't know why they didn't attend. Maybe they didn't know that there was a meeting. Maybe they were at work. Maybe they were somewhere. Who knows? But instead of maybe like telling them off for not going to the meeting, Marshall and Bonnie just said that they just like got up and they were like, we're going to go off and meditate for a while. And it's like, yeah, it kind of messed with people's heads. It's like you do something naughty and they're like, I'm going to go off and meditate. And they were like, why? They didn't understand why they failed in their leadership. They were saying this to their members, and their members were like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, so they went off and meditated. Like, they were being guilt tripped. So yeah, when they came back, their members were crying. They were crying and they had so much shame. It's sad. It's like a manipulation tactic. Okay, so now I'm going to jump forward a bit. In January of 94, the LA Weekly ran an article on the cult, then known as the Total Overcomers. And a guy called Richard Ford, who would later play a key role in the 1997 group Suicide, discovered Heaven's Gate through this article. So he's, looking through the newspaper or whatever, and he sees it, and he got intrigued. He was interested, and he contacted them, and he joined. Yeah, he renamed himself as well. He renamed himself to Rio D'Angelo. I'll be talking about him later. Also, Coast to Coast AM contacted Heaven's Gate for a BBC Two documentary series. And in early March of 97, just weeks before this mass suicide, they got a response. So they emailed them back, and they basically said that they couldn't be a part of the documentary because it would interfere with what they were focusing on at the time. Basically, they couldn't do the doco because they were all going to be dead. That's what it was all about. Then, in October of 96, the group rented a large house, which they called the Monastery. It was massive. It was a 9,200 square foot mansion in California, and they were paying $7,000 a month in cash. Also, this part made me laugh just a little bit. The cult, I gotta say this with a straight face, they purchased alien abduction insurance. Apparently that's a thing. And the policy covered up to 50 members and would pay out $1 million per person. It covered abduction, if an alien got someone pregnant, or death by alien. So prior to this, in June of 95, they had purchased land near Manzano, New Mexico, and they began to create a compound out of rubber tires and concrete. But they kind of just left abruptly. Like, they just quickly left. Then, on March 19th of 97, Marshall videotaped himself. This was called Doe's Final Exit, and he spoke about mass suicide and how the only way to evacuate this earth was to do that. I gotta stop saying that word so many times, otherwise they won't monetize this video. So I'm just gonna be like, take their life. That's what I'm gonna say now. So he spoke about Comet Hale-Bopp and how this comet going over the sky was the cult's sign that they were looking for. He also said there was a UFO that was trailing behind this comet. So basically this UFO is following the comet. That's when they all started to prepare for a ritual take their life. I can't say it. Can I spell it? S-U-I-C-I-D-E. There we go. This had to be done so that all of their souls could reach the next level before the closure of Heaven's Gate. This is so freaking sad. I gotta stop like being all jokey about it because it's not funny. This guy is about to wipe out a large number of people just because he's obviously mentally ill. I just wish that someone could have stopped them, but no one did, and no one in the cult was going to argue because they believed in what they were being told, and they believed that after their deaths a UFO would come and take their souls to another level of existence above human, which Marshall described as being both physical and spiritual. So one thing they did while they were preparing for this ritual sacrifice, I think I'm going to call it that, ritual sacrifice instead of using the other word, was each member videotaped a farewell message. So sad. It would have been so freaking hard for their loved ones to watch those messages afterwards. Next, everyone got dressed into identical black shirts and sweatpants. They also wore brand new black and white Nikes and armband patches that said Heaven's Gate Away Team. So each member carried a $5 bill and 3 quarters in their pockets, which was to cover the cost of vagrancy laws, and the quarters were for calling home from payphones. Yeah, but I read that a former member said that it was actually a reference to a Mark Twain story, which said that $5.75 was the cost to ride the tail of a comet to heaven. It sounds more legit, right? So I'm not sure. I don't know. Then, to take their lives, members took, how do I say this word? Phenobarbital. It was mixed with applesauce or pudding, and it was washed down with vodka. Then, after they ate this applesauce pudding mix, they secured plastic bags over their heads and suffocated themselves. That would have been freaking horrible to go through. Oh my god, horrible. So as each person died, a living member of the cult would arrange the body by first removing the plastic bag, and then they would take the body and lay them on their bed. They would like neatly, lay them on their bed, and then they would cover their face and their torsos with a square purple cloth. So sad. So my immediate thought was freaking sad, but then I thought, like, were people alive? Like, people were staying alive, right? But then I found out that they were just taking their lives at different times. What do you guys think? It's so sad. This is murder, right? Like, yeah. I don't know. So in an interview, 2 of the surviving members of this cult said that the identical clothing was a uniform representing unity for the mass, I can't say that word, SUICIDE, while the Nikes were chosen because the group got a good deal on the shoes. Yep. Apparently Marshall was also a fan of Nikes, and everyone was expected to wear them, and they were expected to like Nikes. I guess that was another rule. Okay. So Heaven's Gate also had a saying. Guess what it was? Just do it. Nike's slogan. But they pronounced do as do. So just do it. Marshall's nickname. Just do it. That's stupid. Like, this is silly. Anyway, 39 people lost their lives that day. 21 of them were women and 18 were men, and they were between 26 and 72. They were believed to have died in 3 groups over a 3-day period, with remaining participants cleaning up after each, death and preparing them. Oh, so sad. So these deaths occurred in groups of 15, 15, and 9 between approximately March 22nd and March 26, 97. Marshall was in the last group to die, and there were 2 people who remained after him. They know this because when they found them, 2 people still had the bags over their heads and they didn't have the cloths covering them. So before the last group took their lives, packages were sent to numerous Heaven's Gate affiliated people or formerly affiliated people, and at least 1 media outlet. So this was the BBC department that wanted to make this documentary. So among the people who received a package was Rio D'Angelo, that guy I talked about before. So this man, he actually left the cult, and when he received this package on March the 25th, 97, he opened it up and there were 2 VHS videotapes, one with Doe's final exit and the other with the farewell message of group followers. It also contained a letter that said, among other things, "We have exited our vehicles just as we entered them." So Rio D'Angelo told his boss about this package, and his boss actually went and picked him up. Then they drove to the Heaven's Gate mansion. He needed to make sure that this was for real. So Rio D'Angelo's boss would stay outside while he went in. So he went around the back and he found that the back door was unlocked. They say that it was unlocked intentionally so that they could be found. He had a camcorder with him because apparently he wanted to document his findings. Okay. I don't know why. But yeah, so he videoed it, then he went in, and what he found was absolutely heartbreaking. He then went back to the car and told his boss, and his boss encouraged him to make a call to the authorities. He had to. So at 3:15 p.m. on March the 26th, 1997, the San Diego County Sheriff's Department received an anonymous tip. This tip said that they should go and check on the welfare of the residents at the Heaven's Gate mansion, and obviously the caller ended up being Rio D'Angelo. I don't know why he did it and did an anonymous tip. I don't get that. Why couldn't he just like talk to them? Anyway, at least he called. He did the right thing. Exactly. Okay. At first, the police didn't know if this was serious because this tip said that it was a mass death thing. I can't say the word. You know what I'm saying. And they just sent one deputy over at first. So this officer arrived and went through a side door. As he walked in, he was overcome by a strong smell of decomposition. He knew immediately what that smell was, and he ventured inside. He knew something was really wrong. Then he saw 10 bodies that were decomposing quite quickly because it was so hot in Southern California during springtime, and he called the job in. So 2 more deputies arrived and they went inside and saw what he saw, and they checked over the place. They needed to make sure that was someone alive in there. Maybe they could save someone, but ultimately all 39 bodies that they saw, they were all deceased. Apparently all 39 bodies were cremated. I don't know how the families felt about that, but yeah. The Heaven's Gate deaths were widely publicized in the media, and when the news broke of its relation to Comet Hale-Bopp, the co-discoverer of this comet, who was Alan Hale, was drawn into the story. So his phone, it was just ringing and ringing and ringing all day long, and he chose not to respond just yet because he was actually going to be doing a press conference the next day, and he wanted to do some research on the horrific event that took place. He needed to prepare himself. He didn't know what was going on, so he had to do some research quickly. Dr. Hale discussed the scientific significance of comets and gave a personal account of his discovery. He then spoke about the combination of scientific illiteracy and willful delusions on radio talk shows. He also talked about an imaginary spacecraft following the comet and the cult's bizarre yearnings for ascending to another level of existence that led to the Heaven's Gate mass SUICIDE. He also said that well before Heaven's Gate, he'd actually told a colleague that birds just flew past. So he told this colleague, we are probably going to have some suicides as a result of this comet. Like, how did he know? And later he said that the sad thing was he wasn't surprised when he found out what had happened. So I don't understand, but yeah, he wasn't surprised. The comets are lovely objects to look at, but they don't have any apocalyptic significance. We must use our minds, our reason, be smarter. So news of the 39 deaths also motivated the copycat deaths of a 58-year-old man who was living in California. So the man left a note dated March 27th, and it said, I'm going on the spaceship with Hale-Bopp to be with those who have gone before me. He also took his life in the same sort of way that these cult members did. It's because it was publicized. People knew how they ended. There were copycats. There was a few. This man, he was found deceased by a friend on March 31st and had no known connection to Heaven's Gate. So there you go. Also, at least 3 former members of this cult died by taking their own lives in the months that followed this. Horrible. And on May the 6th, 97, Wayne Cook and Chuck Humphrey attempted to take their own lives in a hotel in the same sort of way that the cult did. Wayne sadly was successful and he passed away, but luckily at this time, Chuck, he survived. Another former member, James Perky Jr., he died by taking his own life. He was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound on May the 11th, 97. Then sadly, Chuck, the guy I just spoke about, he tried again and he was successful. So he passed away in February of 98. A lot of people looked at this case and agreed it was a mass, am I allowed to say the word again? SUICIDE. But the reality of it was murder. I can't look at it in any other way. What are your guys' opinions on that? The annoying thing is that this cult has a website. Yeah, they recruited through their website as well. But from what I saw, there hasn't actually been any activity on it since 2007. So, you know, probably because all of the members drifted away, or ex-members drifted away. They don't want to partake in this anymore because of what happened. So, in the beginning, the members were told that they would be biologically and chemically transformed into extraterrestrial beings and would be transported aboard a spacecraft which would come to Earth and take them to heaven, referred to as the next level. But Bonnie died in 85. Yeah, so she died. She got cancer. The cult members were so confused because she was chosen to be a messenger on Earth. She shouldn't have died yet. Her body was meant to physically leave on a mission into space. They were just so confused, like, what's going on? Like, they were questioning things. So Marshall, he had to really think quickly before his members started to really, push, like, what's going on. And he changed up some details in the rules, everything. He told everyone that her consciousness leaving Earth was equivalent to her body physically leaving in a spaceship. The cult decided that they were against suicide, and they defined suicide to be turning against the next level when it's being offered, and they believed their human bodies were only vehicles meant to help them on their journey. So, oh my god, it's that word again. SUICIDE would wouldn't be allowing their consciousness to leave their human bodies to join the next level. Basically remaining alive instead of participating in the group ending their life thing was considered, oh my god, that word, SUICIDE of their consciousness. Does that make any sense? Oh my god, that word, I can't say it that many times. YouTube will tell me off. It doesn't make sense at all anyway. This cult would often say that a person or a person's body was just their vehicle. The cult members also adopted names that had 3 letters followed by the suffix "odi" to signify themselves as children of the next level. This is also mentioned in Marshall's final video, that Doe's final exit thing. They also believed that to be eligible for membership into the next level, humans would have to shed every attachment on the planet. That would suck. This meant all members had to give up all human-like characteristics, such as their family, their friends, their gender, their sexuality, their individuality, their jobs, their money, their possessions, everything gone. The evolutionary level above human was a physical, corporal place, another world in our universe where residents live in pure bliss and nourish themselves by absorbing pure sunlight. I cannot do that because I have astigmatism. Sorry. So at the next level, beings do not engage in sex, eating, or dying. Okay, 2 of those things I like. Basically, the things that make us human. So Heaven's Gate believed that what the Bible calls God is actually a highly developed extraterrestrial. So God's an alien. Heaven's Gate members believed that evil space aliens called Luciferians falsely represented themselves to Earthlings as God and conspired to keep humans from developing. Okay. As technically advanced humanoids, these aliens have spacecraft, space-time, time travel, and telepathy. They can also use holograms to make fake miracles. Okay. They are beings with gender, and they stopped training to achieve the kingdom of God thousands of years ago. So Heaven's Gate believed that all existing religions on earth had been corrupted. They believed that they were corrupted by these bad aliens. Wow. Marshall, he had an amazing imagination, right? He could have made a lot of money doing like sci-fi comics or something like that. Crazy. Remember, I'm not making a joke about the people who died. I was merely making a joke about Marshall being a frickin' dickhead. He's a horrible person. I will diss him. Anyway, the beliefs that I just spoke about stayed pretty consistent over the years that this cult was around, but there was some wriggle room for Marshall to add new ideology. He would modify the belief system sometimes, and there are examples of him adding to the belief system, changing things up a little bit, like modifying the way someone can enter the next level. That was one thing. Changing the way they described themselves, placing more importance on the idea of Satan, and adding several other New Age concepts. One of those concepts was the belief of ET walk-ins. So the cult believed they were ETs. Yeah, they believed they were, Marshall's an ET, apparently. Okay. However, after the notion of walk-ins became quite popular within, the New Age subculture of this cult, the two, meaning Marshall and Bonnie, changed their tune and they began describing themselves as ET walk-ins. The idea of walk-ins is very similar to the concept of being possessed by spirits. So a walk-in, it can be defined as an entity who occupies a body that has been vacated by its original soul. Okay. Heaven's Gate came to believe an E.T. walk-in is a walk-in that is supposedly from another planet, so an alien. The concept of walk-ins helped Marshall and Bonnie to personally start from what they considered a clean slate. Their past lives never happened. And in this so-called clean slate, they were no longer considered to be the people that they had been prior to the start of this cult, but they had taken on a new life. Also, Marshall managed to get this cult, these people, to believe that the walk-in that was inside of his body was the same that was inside Jesus 2,000 years ago. Like, actually. But that's not it. No. But wait, there's more. Another New Age belief that Marshall and Bonnie adopted was the ancient astronaut hypothesis. So the term ancient astronauts is used to refer to various forms of the concept that ETs visited Earth in the distant past. So these two geniuses took parts of this concept. They basically just changed it up. Apparently, their version, aliens planted the seeds of current humans millions of years ago, and they've come back to reap the harvest of their work in the form of spiritually evolved individuals who will join the ranks of flying saucer crews. Yeah. What are you guys thinking about this so far? What do you guys reckon? Are you on the same wavelength as me? Am I being mean to these people? Well, Marshall, I'm not, like, I feel really bad for the victims. I call the members victims. It's Bonnie and Marshall that I'm having a dig at. That's it. My opinion, this whole thing is bogus and ridiculous. But in saying that, Marshall and Bonnie were very creative. That is some really out of the box thinking. Like, they could have made a freaking comic. Remember, guys, like I said earlier, I see things very black and white. Can't help it. But I think I believe in aliens. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I do. I'm open to it, but I'm not open to this crap. Anyway, back to the madness. Apparently only a select few members of humanity will be chosen to advance to this transhuman state. The rest will be left to wallow in the spiritually poisoned atmosphere of a corrupt world. Sorry guys, I'm so sorry, but we are screwed. Because only the cult members were allowed to advance to this transhuman state. We have to stay here and endure the human suffering. Okay. But you could not just sign up to this cult and be allowed to level up. No, 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 no. There was a process. There is always a catch. According to Heaven's Gate, once you have perfected yourself through a process, there were 4 methods to enter or graduate to the next level. But the final process is death. So, no thank you, I don't want to join. So this is like the UFO version of the rapture. My goodness. So an alien spacecraft would descend to Earth, collect Marshall, collect Bonnie, and their followers that graduated. But first, their human bodies would be transformed through biological and chemical processes. So yeah, near the end, Marshall told everyone that they might have to abandon their human bodies and achieve the next level as Jesus had. So basically, 39 people have to take their lives to graduate, to go. Also, there weren't any kids in this cult. I was actually quite pleased to read that, because I hate it when something bad happens to children, animals, and elderlies. I hate it, but some elderlies do lose their lives here. There were no children in this cult. You could only join if you were over 18, and you would have to give up everything. Like I said before, all your possessions gone. And also you weren't allowed any indulgences, so nothing good. The group was tightly knit and everything was shared. In public, each member always carried a $5 bill and a roll of quarters. I do not know why. Maybe they thought the aliens would come and take them and that was their spacecraft fare. I do not know. Anyway, so remember, this cult is serious about maintaining their cultness, and 8 men, including, I don't know, is cultness even a word? I think I just made that up. Anyway, 8 men, including Marshall, they voluntarily underwent castration as an extreme means of maintaining their lifestyle. Very, very extreme. They couldn't trust themselves, obviously. And the group actually attempted to do the castration themselves because one of the members was actually a nurse. And Marshall was all like, oh, she can do it. She's a nurse. She knows. No, it's a surgeon who does that. But anyway, Marshall was like, she can do it. Saves the paperwork, you know. But that was an epic fail because this nurse, she's a nurse, she's not a surgeon, botched the operation and nearly killed the guy that she was attempting to castrate. So yeah, they needed a real surgeon in an actual hospital to perform these surgeries, which they did do. They went and got them done properly. I'm pretty sure that I read that this particular guy left the cult after that experience. Fair enough, I would too. Also, it costs money to keep a cult afloat, so they earned money by offering professional website development under the business name Higher Source. Gotta make money. Apparently they were really good with computers, this cult. So as strange as their beliefs were, the cult members, they had once been everyday people. They were just drawn in by a sense of belonging and togetherness. Apparently, even today, there are people asking to join this cult. There are 2 guys, they're ex-members or something like that, and they not run, but they, you know, they do the website. I think they run it, but they're not on it like much because, yeah. Anyway, apparently people still ask, but they just tell them no, and instead they just send them out some books and teachings, and they send out all the information. So if you ring or email or whatever and ask, they'll just send it out. They said that there's a plan for when they pass away. They want Marshall's teachings to continue into the future and beyond. It's kind of scary. That's terrifying. So yeah, that is some crazy, crazy stuff. I am sorry if I offended anybody. I just do not like Marshall. I am going to say it again. I was not making jokes or taking digs at the members. I feel very sad for the members who lost their lives, and I consider this to be murder. The digs were at Marshall and Bonnie. Come on, they knew better. Horrible, 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 horrible. What do you guys think? Have any of you been in a cult? Are you allowed to say if you've been in a cult? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I've never been in one. I know something though that my mum told me not to say, but I'm gonna. So my mum, she joined the Mormon church. Shocker. Ages ago, when she was like a teenager. So before she met my dad, she was actually living on the street because my grandparents kicked her out. Anyway, that's another story for another day. And so she got taken in by this woman, and this woman was a Mormon, and my mum went with her to church, and she ended up getting roped in. And yeah, I have nothing against Mormons. I am just not religious. There you go. So yeah, my mum was like, you can't say anything because then we'll have Mormons at the door. Anyway, I'm rambling. Like I said, my son is sick. He has been sick for the last week. I had 2.5 hours sleep last night. He was coughing. He was in my bed. He was coughing on my neck, and it was disturbing. And I couldn't sleep. And then I went on the couch and I still couldn't sleep. So I set up and did some editing of the video I actually filmed yesterday that I haven't yet put up. So there's going to be 2 videos coming up. Anyway, that is me for today. Be kind. We are all allowed to have our own beliefs. Remember, we can have our own beliefs. If you want to be religious, you be religious. That's cool with me. I have no beef. The only beef I have is Marshall and Bonnie. They are terrible, terrible people. Terrible. Those poor innocent victims, they lost their lives, and it is murder. It is not a, can I say the word again? I don't know. I don't think this video is going to get monetized anyway because I've said it so many times. There's certain words you can't say like too many times. Like I can say murder like a few times. I can't say the R word, so I have to say R word or SA for sexual assault. And yeah, you just gotta be real careful, otherwise YouTube are like, nope, you're not getting your video monetized. So yeah, it's kind of annoying, but I'll just spell it out. I'll just sit here and spell the words. It is what it is. That's YouTube for you guys. Also, remember I got monetized recently? Monetized? Is that what you call it? Yeah, I think that's what you call it. 2.5 hours sleep, guys. I'm tired. I just did like an hour story, so give me a break. If I've said things that were too harsh, I apologize. But I'm very tired and I'm speaking my mind. Usually I keep it in check a bit better. Anyway, so yeah, I got accepted into the YouTube partner program, and yay, well done, Kate. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I got these 2 little things. So there's something called supers, I think it was supers, and then like, was it groups or levels or something? Yeah, so I've added those. So if you guys want to check those out, that'll be cool, because I'm gonna do things with those words. Yeah, so I've set up 3 levels. I think I've called them level 1, level 2, level 3, and there's like different things. I think I'm gonna make a video about this because my brain's not working anymore, but I'm just letting you guys know. Is it called supers? Supers, something like that. And there's that other one, or is that called supers? There's like these levels. Anyway, oh my god, I'm rambling. This is me normally at home when I'm not filming. I'm like blah 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 blah. Anyway, yeah, I think they're called supers, something like that. Or there's another one where you can like pay money, and it helps the creator like be able to do things like purchase equipment and stuff, which would be really cool. So if you guys like donate, I can actually get proper equipment, because I am filming off my phone. I am filming off my phone, and it is really difficult to try and get it like in an angle that's, and the lighting and stuff. But yeah, it'd be really cool. And like I've got this tiny little thing that's attached to my phone, the microphone. I would love to have a proper microphone. Like I see other YouTubers and they got those really cool microphones and they have the proper cameras and their videos look so much better, because I've looked at my videos and like it's a bit glitchy, and that's because I film with my phone. So feel free to donate to my YouTube channel to help me be better, make better videos for you. That's how it works, right? Creators need their support system, and you guys are our support system. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I'm extremely tired. I'm going to go upstairs, make dinner, and go to sleep. No, I can't. I have to bath my son, give him his medicine, try and get him to sleep. He didn't go to sleep until 1:30, and then I stayed up because he was coughing until like 2:30, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up at like 4:35. I got like next to no sleep, and not quality sleep. So I have you know those headaches that sit there? I've got one of those. Is anyone actually still here? If you're still here, say hi, Kate. Hi, I'm tired. I don't want to go back upstairs. My mum's looking after my son. I don't want to go back up there. He's crying when he's sick. No, I need to go be a mum. Damn it. Okay, have a great day, guys. I'm gonna go. I hope you have a wonderful morning, day, night, whatever it is where you are. Please help out my channel by, I think there's like a button or something that, yeah, you guys can have a look. I'm still new to this. I'm still trying to figure it all out on the app. I think I've set it up all right. Check it out. Anyway, I'm gone. Have a great day. Catch you later. next video. I think I'm going to take a couple of days off because I need to rest, because I'm looking after a sick child and I'm putting stories together and I'm filming and I'm tired. It is time to take a rest for a couple of days. Okay, I'm going to catch you later. Bye bye.